Great, thank you.
All right. We'll see what happens.
All right, all right, it's 6:11. My name is Jim Volz. I'm the chair of the select board. I'm calling a special meeting of the select board to order. First item on the agenda is, are there any changes to the agenda? Patty and Carl, you're okay with the agenda?
I have a request. You want to know what's on the agenda?
No, I know what's on the agenda. I want to know if there are any changes to it.
Oh, any changes to the agenda?
I propose a change that we discuss the waste management future that we have to choose from.
Okay.
All right, when do you want to add that in?
Probably has a lot to do with who's here. There's a lot of folks here, so why don't we do that sooner rather than later?
Yeah, so just tell me where you want to add it, at what location on the agenda.
Well, after announcements, between announcements and public comment.
So we're going to start with that one instead of the update on the flood?
Yeah, we can do it right there.
Okay, and what was that item again, please?
The announcements and public comment, and then it was about waste management of the waste
Oh,
products.
waste management, okay.
Yeah, the streets. That's the street.
All right, waste management. Wouldn't waste management make more sense if we did it after the update on the recovery efforts?
We can do that, I guess. Sure.
I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay. Any other announcements?
I can just say that the water just came on Creamery Street. I just got informed of that.
And who said that?
Yeah.
You have to.
Probably means it's on
You have to
Brook Road
adapt.
in Hudson and Mills. I got a text.
Was that Michael Billingsley who just said that?
Yeah, Michael Billingsley, emergency manager.
Okay, everyone needs to state their name before they speak for the recording, because it's very hard to tell who's talking.
Yep.
I should know better.
Okay. All right, any other public comment at this time?
Oh, Jamie?
This is Jamie Spector. I haven't seen the agenda.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
She's looking at it.
Never mind, it's on the agenda.
Okay. All right, shall we start the update then? Who's gonna be giving the update?
Update on the flood?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I can just give a quick overview. It looks like
And
we're gonna have.
Who's speaking? Who's speaking?
And town clerk treasurer. Progress is still being made. Work has begun on Redfield Road. The temporary bridge will probably, it's starting to arrive, and it'll probably be set up by early next week. The first bridge on Brook Road is passable single lane. And I want people to know that these roads are temporarily fixed. These are not robust roads. If you do not need to be on the road, do not be on the road, especially during the day, getting in the way of construction workers. A couple of other things of note: on the Brook Road, the bridge, the Cameron Road Bridge, single lane. The bridge after that on Brook Road is also single lane. That, do not cross that bridge. That's only for emergency workers. I just want to point it out to show that we're making progress. The Lower Road situation stands. You can't enter Barry City from Lower Road, and that it might be a longer fix. Also on Route 2, there's been more erosion at the pull-off, and I think that we ought to expect that the Route 2 closure from Country Club Road to 214 is probably going to be in effect for a while. Where our priorities right now are especially Redfield Road, where there are still families that are isolated. I think that there might have been some more work done on, Maxfield Road. Lee Road is, open single lane. Spruce Mountain Road, I think there was a little bit of erosion today, but it's pretty passable. And I think that's it. Is there questions about any?
I had a question about Mitchell Road, because people were taking lower and then taking Mitchell across to Route 14,
Right,
but that was closed for a while. Is it open again?
right. Do you know offhand?
I haven't been over that way. I know Berrytown had placed some barricades in place. I'm assuming they're gonna stabilize that bank and they want to not have traffic come through when they're trying to work.
I think that's probably it. And I think it is buried down, but that's
Yeah.
that responsibility, but I was wondering if it's open. Okay.
Yeah, that's not I only mentioned it because of people exiting Plainfield. And
Right.
all that.
Right, yeah.
It's is it 14? I think that's it. I'd also like to say on a positive note that a lot of the remedial work that we did previous years has paid off. There were obvious trouble spots that continually washed out in the past that actually held time. That would be on Lower Road, Country Club Road, Bean Road, Lee Road used to completely wash out. Now the bottom washed out the road itself. So I'm just saying, we've done things in the past that have paid off. It might not feel like it at this particular moment.
Especially.
And also the good news is the state has taken note of our plight. And there's going to be a meeting tomorrow with a federal official specifically on Bean Road.
Bean or?
Sorry, roads. Sorry.
Where's that meeting?
Well, it's not a public meeting. It's just like
There's 4 or 5 of us.
we're just going to tour the guy and tell him that we're not interested in a loan. We're interested in a grant. We need this is way beyond the taxpayer lift here. We're talking millions and millions of dollars, and we're not going to be borrowing that money. We need to have. If the state is interested in having these things fixed, we need help, and the federal government as well. And the feds have a lot of money, so.
Okay, you want to go, Jim?
No, it's all right. The next thing, did you,
Eli Barlow, what does a while mean on Route 2 closure? Is that a month? Is that 6 months?
You know what? I really don't. We're expecting a big storm tonight.
Right, it could be 6 months.
I don't know. I know that there are. I had heard talk through the rumor mill that they're gonna move the highway over. Maybe purchase some land from Goddard or something. But I don't really know.
As someone pointed out, it may not be their choice. They just happen.
Right, and as the road foreman pointed out to me, that they really can only start prioritizing the project when there's damage within the right of way. So the fact that half the cliff has fallen down, well, that's not quite at the right of way. So it's gonna have to start hitting the highway almost or the alarm.
Carl, is there a?
Over there, just, it's like 10 feet, the head pavement out of the fissure about 150 yards long.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, maybe hit the bell, so finally, I guess maybe we should fix that, yeah.
Well, it's actually slightly the river.
Michael says they're saying, Michael Jones.
That was Jonathan Matthew.
Yeah, it will possibly go tonight, given everything that Matthew said, and the fact that we have a whole lot of more moisture coming in, but I can also say that someone has observed it from the other side of the river, and there's a big 4-foot undercut, so it's actually sort of poised on the air, and it's almost no question it's gonna come down, the question is just when. And then if as Bram was saying, if the broken off piece moves closer to the highway, then it gets into the right of way, then they have money to work on.
I have a question, Carl. What if the town gave authorization? Because the town owns beyond that right of way, correct?
Yeah.
I mean, not that we're gonna do anything now, it's gonna fall in.
And beyond that cliff.
I wonder in the future if the town gave permission for the state.
Yeah, I don't think it's about permission, I think it's about.
Who's gonna fund it? It's either gonna be the town or the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
If the town wants to clean it up.
There's a couple of hands.
Oh, a couple hands are up there.
Charlie?
yeah,
Charlie,
Charlie Cogbill.
as of this evening, it looks like the Brook Road Bridge in the village is clear. If that is true, the north and south sides of the village are connected. Is that the case?
So Charlie, that is the case, but I just want to say there's still work being done on, like, for example, a lot of the water work was being done on one side of the bridge. So if you go on the bridge, you might encounter delays. It's not like a regular road. It's single lane and it's precarious. And I would also, with all these roads, if we have a very heavy rainstorm tonight, be very careful about crossing any of them. But yes, in short, that you can traverse the town without going the 35-40-minute car drive.
I'd just like to, Carl again, I'd like to just remind people that they should never cross water if they're driving, and that we've lost 2 people in the state because they did that, and it's just a reminder, don't ever do it, just go around. Any other thoughts on?
I have one, Boyd Farnham. I just have a question of this temporary bridge. Thousands of dollars that we're spending in that. The bridge on in front of George Cushing's, 5 hours was open. Why are we spending all the time and money on that bridge? When there's a path open, neither one of them are gonna be any more secure.
They're gonna be about the same.
They're both in jeopardy of getting flooded out, but we're putting thousands of dollars into a temporary bridge. We still have residents on Plainfield Road that have not gotten out. I think it's been pretty mismanagement getting people out and roads open so they can get emergency help. And
Yep, I don't know the answer to that. I know that when the decision was made to get the temporary bridge, there was question about how the bridge on Brook Road is gonna actually, whether it was even gonna be acceptable. So,
all right, well, I just think we've been through this
yeah,
quite a few times, too many times. Last year, me and the boys opened up all of the Brook Road in 2 or 3 days, so it was temporary opening. This year, we started at the opposite end, which should have started in the village. My thought, anyways, people got out, but there's still people that are trapped, and the rec field road, if that river was set over where it used to be, you're gonna make a temporary road out to those guys in a half a day. Here we are almost a week and they still don't have access.
yeah.
There is underground utilities and power that run along that ditch line, so where would you get the bill from?
There is definitely a way to get a road down across there, definitely. And that's the other issue, the ground utility shouldn't be in the ditch.
Yeah, yeah. There's also the other issue of how do we rebuild it, because it's gonna get washed out again, right?
This is my point,
Yeah.
if you get all the roads open, so they're
Yeah.
passable.
Yeah.
Stop bleeding money off until we have a plan.
Yeah.
I mean, the town is not wealthy with
We're
money.
meeting tomorrow morning at 7, so trying to come up with that.
This little deal this week has cost the town thousands of dollars, and a lot of it was not necessary. And it's still going. It's,
Well, one thing I would just point out is the emergency vehicles can't get up Brook Road until there's a bridge put back there. So that's something to keep in mind.
there is a road that goes back there,
Yeah, that's what you said.
the bridges are all in.
I have a question for the room. I was right next to the brook. I live next to it as well as many other people. And I know that the particular force of this flood has exceeded anything that's happened maybe in the history of the town. And I'm given the impression that a beaver pond filled at the top of Gore Road at the same time that in the middle of the night when the brook was at its highest level. And that additional surge added both weight and ferocity to the amount of water coming through. And if that is true, I would consider it an unusual event that's not likely to happen again, but I don't know if it actually has been confirmed that beaver pond came out.
We
Anybody know?
should confirm that, because I've heard it also, and We just should know if
Yeah.
that's what did it, or if it was just a lot of water
Yeah,
that came
yeah.
down.
So there is one more thing I can add to that. We started on the Gore Road the morning after the flood.
Yeah,
That brook was almost normal height. We replaced an 8-foot tube that was there.
yeah,
There was about 18 inches, 2 feet of water.
really,
So the next morning, the water had gone down to almost normal levels after this flood. In my eyes, 100% of the bridge failures, and culvert failures were all created from debris in the river.
certainly a lot.
And all of that debris in the river is on us. We never cleaned it out. We failed every one of those bridges.
Well, just to be clear, the state is very aggressive.
Absolutely.
I'm just saying that on the municipal level, we've had a lot of discussions about this stuff, and you need a permit to remove 10 yards or less debris. I mean, 10 yards is nothing, so. But I'm just saying that it's not, I think that we're caught in a time when there used to be, very aggressive taking bank run gravel from the brooks and doing all that stuff. And it's gone the other way where things are, it's very difficult to do stuff. I mean, it makes sense, obviously, if we have a bunch of trees that are right in front of a small bridge opening.
Right. That is true.
So, Hey, so if I could interrupt for a second, George Springston sent around an email earlier that addresses this very issue about, and he'd like to speak right now, and I would like to let him speak if you don't mind. Go ahead, George.
Okay, I've got, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes,
Great. Okay,
Introduce yourself.
George Springston. First thing is the beaver pond issue. We don't know that it really was a beaver pond. Yes, I've heard that from Michael and several other folks, but I've been looking at what we have for aerial photos and recent satellite imagery as well, taken just before the flood. And I really doubt that it actually is a beaver pond, because the largest beaver ponds we have are the ones up above Bancroft and including Bancroft Pond, and those haven't gone. And we had a huge flow coming from well upstream of there. It originated up at the headwaters up on Signal Mountain, Spruce Mountain. And I don't think the beaver ponds that are up there are really big enough that if they failed, that they would cause this magnitude. If we get some clear weather for a few days, there'll be some new satellite images taken and we can look and see if any of them have drained. But I think we're going to find, when we finally work that out, that what it was a more intense storm than last year. And we also had more rainfall. I mean, I had 3 inches of rain on the Saturday and Sunday prior to the flood. So the scene was set for a surprisingly large flood. And Lloyd's absolutely right. It was a very flashy, quick up, quick down flood. The most of 4.5 inches of rainfall, 1.6 of it fell in less than an hour from 7 to 8 p.m. that night. That's in great contrast to most of the other storms we've had. So I think that's going to be part of the explanation. All right, so then we get on to the wood issue. And I know it seems like removing wood from the channel is going to clear everything out and make the problems go away. The situation, but the engineers and river scientists have looked at this, and it's really clear that removing wood from the channel, particularly of Great Brook, a lot of the wood that we saw moving through was from fresh bank failures. The wood wasn't in the channel beforehand. It came in and it moved through that night. And all of this comes from the fact that this brook is in a process of adjustment. that means it was destabilized. It was destabilized in the 1970s after the 73 flood caused a lot of damage. And and the stream channel was cleared of boulders. The banks were armored with rock. And we've always had a lot of bridges. We've got over a dozen bridges and culverts along that brook, and they constrict the stream. And this system is in the process of changing to accommodate the stream flow it used to have, but then that's been made worse by the fact that we are getting larger storms with greater intensity, and witnessed this last storm as extreme intensity. The stream is widening out in a number of places, like upstream of Hardy's, and between the Hardy house and the Fowler pit entrance. The stream has cut a new floodplain there, and places like that are adding to the flood storage on the stream. It's dangerous. It's an extremely dangerous stream. As long as we have a road crossing the brook a dozen times, and as long as we have houses that are close to the stream, we're going to have people at risk. But just trying to take all the wood, the thousands of pieces of wood that are in that stream out is a futile effort. And as Bram said, you can't do it anyway. You can do it selectively in the areas just upstream of a bridge where there's a jam. Then yeah, that wood can and should be taken out. But wood removal would cost a fortune, and the state's not going to allow it anyway, and it wouldn't work. Sorry, I went on kind of long there.
I agree with a lot of what you said, but me and my sons were the ones that took most of that debris out of the bridges. 95% of it was dead debris. It was not new debris. Second of all, we've created the situation that we have there by logging, by building houses, building roads, making ditches. We diverted all to that brook. So as man making that problem, we ought to be having some husbandry and keeping the brook clean. Otherwise, we ought to be designing bridges that are 40 feet wide and 20 feet tall to let that go through. If you guys want to leave it as a floodplain, buy out the houses, put in 40-foot span bridges, and just watch it go by. And watch everybody's real estate disappear.
And I would concur with that in a different way, in that Alan Farnham, if he was here, would be saying that the brook had been compromised so far back in time that we just kept pushing it, and then he had proposed as his solution that the brook road actually not even be in the valley, that be on a plateau above. And he had been working on that, he told me, and a couple of times, hoping to convince people to at least move part of it up out of the valley, because when you push a brook in that tight of space and it needs to expand when it has extra water, it's going to just always do damage. And of course, it's all wishful thinking in a sense, because we are, as you just said, we're stuck with the situation we have, and you know, we probably will be buying up. We probably will be seeing people come.
The other thing that it's happened is that brook used to meander down through with lots and lots of corners. That slowed the water down. That brook is a straight shot. So every time we have these events, this village is at a bigger risk than ever before. When that water hits this village, it is going as fast as it's ever been. And it's not going to slow down. So either clean the bridges, clean the rivers, or make big bridges, one or the other. And at that point, you're going to sacrifice the law of the village, because your houses ain't going to be here. That's right.
Now, Gary Graves, I've said for years, you don't technically have to remove everything to clean the brook. Cut it up years ago, before I even knew. They cut everything up into 4 to 6 foot lengths. Hard to find people to do that kind of work now. But if you aren't going to remove it, you at least have to cut it up so that it can flush through the bridges.
And just so you know, that we tried at one point to get volunteers to do that. And we were yelled at by the I can't remember which, or it was one of the insurers, because we didn't, you know, if the town asks people to do something, they need to be assured and all that other stuff, so. It's quite an expensive proposition to hire real professional people to do it. It's not a volunteer.
I have a question, Carl, for George. Did you, have you looked at the drone photos of the river? Didn't they go over the entire length of the river?
Carl, this is George Springston. Yes, I have gone over the photos. They were taken last Saturday. They're going to be very helpful. What are you looking for?
But nothing specific. I just want to know if you've gotten access to the information they took.
Yes, and we've Michael and Bram and others have the links. And I just spent the afternoon downloading the actual ortho photos at work. They're big, and it can certainly help the town make custom maps so we can really see what's going on.
Good, thank you.
So just this is Bram, and just to give people a context and history, starting in, I think it was 2015, the town worked with a outfit out of UBM spatial, I can't think what it's called.
Spatial Analysis Lab.
So they have very, very, very sophisticated LiDAR radar drones that produce very, very detailed images of what's below. So we have a history, and I'll share them, you know, so you can look at the maps to see.
Okay, are we done with the road update part of this agenda? Graham?
Yeah,
So
I
can we
mean,
move-
I
the next-
just want,
yeah.
I just end by saying that, speaking to Lloyd's point, that we are going to, you know, I think the board and others are gonna meet and develop, you know, a strategy. I mean, we're at this point, we're just really reacting in an emergency situation, but there's gonna be strategy and also decisions made regarding how to proceed on certain areas.
Okay, so the next thing on the agenda was debris removal.
Get Jamie here to talk.
I'm sorry?
Jamie Spector wants to talk.
And,
Okay,
yeah, following up on Lloyd's points, and you know, I think that many people in the town are just thinking about, yeah, once we get through the immediate emergency, how are we thinking long-term and thinking about the future and planning, and how do we build back in a way that's thoughtful, thinking about the longer-term planning and design and sustainability and resilience moving forward, and appreciating the work of the select board in leading us in that process, but how do we bring the community into that discussion? And the work of experts and people who are, you know, professionals who are thinking about this, you know, in terms of design and modeling for the future. So maybe this is the moment to figure out what that process is gonna be, but I would just hope that there would be community involvement in thinking about that planning. Not forgetting the past, you know, and taking a look back at history and what was said and done in the past, and remembering the past, and then thinking about the future as well.
I would say, Jamie, that I feel we should have a public meeting,
Yeah,
but I'd like to do it when we have information.
exactly.
Because it's just, you know, we just all have opinions.
Totally.
If we can get some real data, which we're starting with the overhead shots, and then analysis, that's my intention, is to, I suggest we do that.
yeah, and I agree with Carl.
Great, thanks.
Jim, can I add to that, Michael Billingsley?
Sure,
That's maybe a long view thing, but we also know that a public meeting with everybody sitting in the room is an important time we did this last year, and you might remember, and we're gonna try and put a meeting like that together within the next 2 weeks or shorter, along with mental health and functional people, you know, we basically deal with the big questions, but on a family by family basis, because there's so many impacted people this time who haven't even gotten a chance to particularly let us know their story. And for us to do it together is seems to be a pretty high value. And we have the resources being poured toward us, Red Cross, the Washington County Mental Health, and Salvation Army, Southern Baptist. There are a lot of people who are pouring into town, but they know that those who have been impacted, both the evacuated people that we have in care, as well as people that haven't evacuated yet because they're stuck where they are without a working driveway. We really haven't even got a grasp of the human impact of this situation, and we want to be able to have people share that with us and respond to it.
Okay, thank you, Michael. So next thing on the agenda is the debris removal. Does that overlap with the other item we wanted to add, which was waste management?
No, well, yeah, I mean, it is waste management, yes.
Okay, so should we talk about that now then?
Yeah, I could do it. I was given some preliminary material today and spoke with the state waste manager. So I know some of the choices that are and are not in front of us, and most of it is good news rather than bad news. Should I do that?
If people are agreeable.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
What we did last year was, what the state did last year, realizing that the extraordinary cost of removing all this debris, whatever kind of debris it is, it's not going to be within most town budgets. They contracted a company in Florida to do that removal, and then each town decided how they wanted that company to work. I was initially told as late as yesterday that they weren't going to hire that company, and it was going to be on our shoulders to figure out where stuff was going to go. And by this afternoon, that had been completely updated, and the state has decided to, yes, fund again that debris removal company. So that company, who I've already interacted with that last year, called Series Management, which is based in Florida, will have staging teams to evaluate on a town by town basis how we intend to proceed. And then they will be able to start for towns that ready themselves for this, they will be able to start taking debris on the 26th, which seems like a whole long time away. But we're talking about hundreds of tons of debris.
And we're talking about furniture,
Yes.
paper,
Furniture,
silt.
yeah,
We're
I mean,
talking the whole thing.
even last year, they decided not to do at the last minute after telling me that they would. They changed their mind and said they will not do appliances, what they call white goods. And the people had to find their own metal contractors to take them away. In most cases, they were successful in that they didn't have the people to do it because it was a moneymaker for the people that took it. That may be the case again this year. That decision hasn't been made. But we also have hazardous waste, batteries, paint, solvents, and construction debris like broken down sheetrock. All of these different categories, they're going to be deciding which one Series will do, and then telling us the choices to get rid of it. The only decision the town needs to start thinking about, doesn't have to be done tonight, but to start thinking about is to have a waste management point person who would take that role. Last year it was Riley Carlson. Started out being me, but then I was working for a centralized collection, and Riley wanted to do a local collection. We've talked with the state, who have seen some of Plainfield. They kind of think we can't not do a localized collection this year, which would mean roadside sorting and having people put stuff out at the roadside, because we don't have roadsides. And down in the village, we have piles of silt that are so high that it would be inconvenient. So what they're urging is for first of all, get that stuff out of your house as soon as you get help to do it. And we do have people coming in to help to do that, from the Southern Baptist, Mennonites, etc. They are going to help do that. And then once it's on the lawn, at least the moisture won't sink into the house, so you have mold problems. The next step after that is, how do we move that to collection? And the choices would have been roadside, but unless we get rid of the silt, unless all of the roads are paved back to 2 lanes, that's going to be hard to do. So we may end up, even though it's going to be terribly inconvenient for everyone, compared to the opposite, which is not doing it at all, is have a centralized collection area that we did in fact discuss last year, where all the collection is actually on the shoulders of on Series, who will then manage it. And people should be hopeful it will be taken away. People should be hopeful on a budget perspective that the town will not have to pay for it. And then the only thing left is the magnet, that huge effort of finding the help, which I think we could find, if we give enough weeks' notice, we can get people to pick up trucks and all that kind of thing to move it away from whatever your site is, and urging people to be open.
All right, thank you, Michael. Charlie Cogdill, did you have a comment about that?
No, only you're confounding the word debris. Debris removal from flood damage is different from debris removal from the rivers. I'm sorry, you're combining the two.
Well, I stand corrected. The damage and rubbish and trash and construction debris is the right term for that, and is that natural woody waste, which is or vegetative debris, is a different type of issue. As we had friendships with friends of the Winooski and other people who were dealing with that, we could take care of some of it. But if you've got a tree in your front yard, that requires specialized care, and we don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay, thank you. Are we up to discussing the Stafford Act Declaration?
Yes.
And I'm not sure what that is, so somebody needs to explain what that is.
I can speak to that too. Michael Billings.
Graham. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Could I be passed a copy?
Yeah. No, it's,
I gave all three away. Should
you
have.
gave all three away.
Yeah.
Okay, let me get it. Here it is.
Okay, thank you. Frankly, what we are likely to not need, we may not need to do this, but a number of towns have already done it. And this is our official declaration, which is done either by the emergency management director or the select board, and there's certain other officials can do it if they're ICS certified, and ICS is Incident Command System. And when this declaration is in the specific language of calling it Stafford Act, which is a federal statute where on a town level or a county level or state level, that a community is basically saying we have been demolished to the extent that we need federal assistance, and it helps add up to the sum total of declarations on a town by town basis that leads to the state to declare a state declaration of disaster, and that in turn leads to the federal declaration of disaster. Now I can say tentatively that 4 counties are presently Lamoille, Washington, Caledonia, and one other, maybe whatever the one is around Middlebury, I think, but might all have already started to have the number of towns inside that county, so that county can become a federal disaster area, and are contributing signed document saying that this, we are asking the states to hear that we are declaring an emergency, then puts us on the list of support for that federal declaration.
It's Carl. We spoke with an assistant fire chief of Barry who's had experience with this. He said that he highly recommended this to help move the process along, as you pointed out. And in addition to a whole lot of other things he'd like the town to do, get training and certain kind of training and so on. But this was an important one, so I would support this.
Is this something that we need to decide at a select board meeting like tonight, or is that, or something, or is it implemented some other way?
I think we need to decide it tonight.
So do you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept the request for a emergency declaration for the town of Plainfield.
Okay, all in favor?
I just, we want discussions.
Well, I think you might want to rephrase the motion to include the word Stafford Act. Yeah, for that.
I stand corrected.
Request a Stafford Act declaration of a state of emergency.
Okay, we're gonna rewrite the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
Request Stafford Act declaration.
Of a state of emergency for the town of Plainfield.
State of emergency. For town of Plainfield. Okay, I'll read it again. Make sure I got it right. I move that we request the Stafford Act declaration of state emergency for the town of Plainfield.
Will that do it then? Is that the right wording?
I think so.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Patty, did you say anything?
Aye.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I can I make a motion to have me have the authority to sign this? As opposed to
Yeah.
everybody?
Sure, yes, go ahead and make the motion.
Okay, I move that I have Carl Bissix has the ability to sign this on behalf of the board.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all right, that's unanimous as well. So shall we move on to discussing the Brook Road Bridge in the village, the status of the FEMA grant?
Yeah, this is something, I see Alice is on and maybe she can speak to this. I was wondering, the design and everything that we're supporting the bridge right now. Is from a time when everything below the bridge is very different than it is now. Will that require a redesign or a pause in that or not?
Alice, you're muted.
Alice? Alice?
I would do that if you don't check.
I mean, just to fill everybody in. So we've been working for a very long time to try to remediate the damage that the brook caused, and we commissioned a study and we came up with a plan of changing the design of the bridge to allow more movement underneath. We had years of meetings about it and talk. Alice, do you on?
She's got a text on the side.
She says George Springsteen is the person to answer.
George, you on?
Hello, George Springsteen here. Sure, thank you. I can't really answer that question. I think that it would be very important to talk to an engineer who's familiar with it. Roy Schiff, who did the design. You know, they might say that the change situation presents some opportunity that allows it to make it a lot better. They might say better to stick with exactly what we have. I don't know.
George, should we, I know Roy is not contracted to do that. He has a couple of other projects, but should the town authorize having Roy Schiff re-examine that proposal? What do you think, George?
This is George. I don't know how that sort of thing works, you know, as far as, I mean, you would have to, in a formal way, you'd have to set up a contract to do that, right? And I mean, we can ask them. I mean, I'd encourage you to talk with them about it. But I don't know.
The meat and potato issue, I'm very concerned about the town cash flow. Very concerned about, you know, monies. I mean, my focus is getting us through financially the next couple of months. And we have, you know, a pot of money dedicated to that very honorable, great project. But if it's not going to be spent for a while, then those resources are desperately needed in other areas. And I'd like to know, and I don't know that I want to hire, is there some way of finding an answer to this without hiring a consultant? Would FEMA have a comment on this?
Well, I could just also optimistically say that Roy has done because they already were paid to study the bridge, and they were already paid to study the brook. They have a tremendous amount of data. They don't have to collect new data specifically. And they may be able to give us an opinion based on the fact that they're just summarizing on the basis of what information they have already collected, an opinion. And that may not cost us anything. Roy has been very approachable, and or anybody else can ask him a question.
This is George, and I would totally agree with that. I suggest that if you folks want to approach him, or you can ask me to contact him even more informally, whatever you want, but he'll help if he can.
I think it'd be even better from you, George.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Then this is George. I will be happy to contact Roy.
Lloyd Farm here. So we're talking about a bridge that's already in the works of being put in.
Enlarging a much bigger bridge.
If a few conversations ago, we were talking about leaving the brook wild.
Yeah.
Leaving all the debris in it. Why don't we pause on that bridge and get a bigger bridge so that debris can go through?
Well, the money's been committed. And
It is a bit big.
it's been
This is
committed to
George.
us. It's not in.
Right, so we're gonna build a bridge that the trees won't go through here.
Well, the other thing that's also, this is all a moving target, that in addition to that, which is not in consideration before, is that I believe that a number of houses immediately adjacent to the bridge are not going to stay there. And that the floodplain may change. And as a consequence of what we might call the natural course of the river, that it may change the bridge design. That's again why we go back and ask Roy's opinion.
So we put a small bridge in there that gets dammed up the debris and it backs all the water.
No, it's not a small bridge.
No, Lloyd, let me just.
Yeah.
Clarify this, Judas, I think there's some misunderstanding here. We asked this professional hydrologist, water engineer to take into account woody debris at the homes. One of the challenges that we have with FEMA is that when a bridge is knocked down, you can replace the bridge, but we don't have that situation. We have these cement bridges that just stay up. So we couldn't get FEMA to quote unquote replace the bridge without an incredibly difficult process. So the whole idea was to build a bigger, better bridge that statistically speaking posed, I can't remember what the thing was. It would do 80% better than the current bridge that we have. Now that looked like a great value proposition because basically town would spend $171,000. We get a $1.5 million new big bridge. Now, my concern, and I think I think that would be good. It is a bigger, better bridge. It's not that old horrible bridge. The challenge now is what is the status now that things have changed so radically in the landscape? Is that design still good? Should we go ahead? So that's the idea. But we're very, actively looking out for the taxpayer dollar. I mean, 171 is a huge number, but when you look at what the cost, when you factor in all the permitting, all the studies, archaeological studies, you can't believe what it takes to do things legally. So
Which have all been done.
In another addition to that, right there, do we need all the bridges that we have? Do we can't combine one bridge?
That was actually part of the discussion.
Does that bridge have to be replaced?
Right, that was part of the discussion, and there were a lot of homeowners. There were a lot of homeowners who wanted one or the other bridge to go. And the challenge there, just politically, is when you start having that discussion, the people like, for example, on Hudson Avenue, if you got rid of the Brook Road Bridge, get very upset, as do some people on Main Street because of the increased traffic flow. I'm just telling you that it's not an easy discussion. Believe me, we've had it.
At any rate, George Springston is going to contact the people who designed the bridge and find out if they have an opinion about whether this new flood has any impact on the design. So let's go with that.
I think that's good.
Great.
All right, next thing on the agenda was discuss VCF funds reallocation.
Can someone speak to that?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, who's that? Who's speaking?
Alice Merrill. And
Oh,
if
hi,
I
Alice.
backtrack a bit before you moved away from the Brook Road Bridge between Creamery and Mill. The select board has signed the agreement with the Department of Public Safety. We do have the money from FEMA. And the next step would be to develop the request for proposals for construction phase engineering. We have a timeline, which I've sent you guys, the select board. So this is in the works. I would recommend that you do talk to the Malone, well, it's probably Roy Shift, whoever George recommends about the new situation, but this project is starting. So construction won't be until construction season of 2026. It's a long haul.
And I would just point out, it was the new design is specifically designed to avoid the flooding that has occurred in the past in town caused by that bridge.
Yeah, caused by the log jams.
Right. It's much bigger.
Bigger. Yeah, it's the appropriate size for the river channel there. And now, if you would like, I can speak to the Vermont Community Foundation's offer.
Yes, please.
You ready?
Ready?
Yes, go ahead.
So,
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, so the town had applied for funding for our old home event. And we received about $9,000 through the Vermont Community Foundation to do a celebration of community resilience in the face of last year's damages. Well, here we are again with a new year, right? Anyhow, Vermont Community Foundation has been very generous to our town. As Michael can attest, they've helped with the Emergency Operations Center. They have said that if we would like to reallocate the $9,000 we got for old home funding, that they'd be happy to reallocate it to flood relief. They've also said that right away, they're willing to give $5,000 to support the fire and rescue. I had further conversations about reallocating the funds for the Old Home Day event. And I've spoken both to Jamie and the Community Foundation. Jamie and I are strongly recommending that we do have some sort of Old Home Day that is funded with some of the money that we've gotten from the Community Foundation. We've revised the budget and we haven't really gone through this with revising event planning, but we're thinking maybe $7,000 would do it and the remaining $2,000 could go to flood relief. In addition to that, I've spoken to Kate McCarthy at the foundation and she said they're hopeful that the foundation can provide additional funds, but they need to hear from the town on specific needs and amounts. So the whole way around sounds like Community Foundation is going to help us out here.
Thank you for all that work.
Jamie's has her hand up.
Thanks, Alice. This is Jamie. I think I got on the agenda for next week. Last week, I was talking to Kristen and but while I'm here and just for everyone in the room, just wanted to put it out there. Just because I don't think it should be like Alice and my decision at all, but we were thinking that it feels like Old Home Day should still happen. Like we're thinking we're gonna come September 7th, that we should still have a town celebration. So I guess one, I would just love to hear for other people who are here, what are your thoughts? Do you agree? And then the one person proposed an idea that I really liked, which was instead of having the after the parade, instead of having a celebration at the rec field, to actually have everything in the churchyard. We are already planning to have a street dance in front of Positive Pie, and we have a band booked. and I've been in touch with Carlo and coordinating a positive high, and we have a band that's gonna play on the street in front of Main Street. I've been in touch with the sheriff and they already are all informed about that, or gonna close the street down. But maybe having a whole celebration just right here in the village. I could talk to the fire and rescue and see if there's some way they could do their barbecue up here, like maybe in the driveway or something, but
We have a question.
yeah,
I'd love to respond to it.
yeah.
Hey, your name?
My name's Jake McBride, and first thing I want to say is I'm all in favor of having Old Home Day. I think that if there's any year that we need it, it's this year.
Yeah.
And then also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I heard in the engagement from BCF,
Mhm.
that there could be more money coming. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I don't want us to divert too much money away from Old Home Day if we could be getting more money towards flood relief, and fire and rescue.
Yep,
And I think that the 2 and 7 sounds really good. Given that
what do you
they're
mean, expense out
the 2,000 and 7,000, 7,000 being kept for.
For Old Home Day.
and 2,000 being diverted because there could be more money coming.
yeah, yeah.
And then the second thing I want to say is just in regards to having it in the church area. I love that idea in that it's, that's a community center in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I think my only concern there would be traffic coming in and out of the village for the event. Would,
Yeah.
like, we have no parking on Route 2, and that could create a dangerous situation, whereas
Yeah.
like, if we get everyone to the rec field and then shut down the main intersection in town, then that dance could be happening later, and not have people coming into the village.
Yeah.
As a follow-up to that, I wonder if we could have more detail on how it would work. In other words, maybe it wouldn't be on Main Street, but maybe it's on Mill Street. So that Main Street can still act as a conduit for cars to go up to the park and ride and so on. It sounds like there's some more.
Grab the details,
Some
yeah,
more thoughts on that could
Yeah.
help, and also, if it sounds like funding might be coming, but you need to have a reason for it.
Yeah.
So you wanna document what needs you might have or want
yeah.
to make this a successful. Thanks.
I just wanna put in a word for the Grace United Methodist Church and say, you have to ask to.
Of course.
There.
Yeah,
It should not be assumed that.
Yeah.
They have a new minister, his name is Jay Ford, he's brand new.
Yeah.
And he's been extraordinary in stepping up amongst other multiple ways in terms of having food and clothing donations in the basement and the front yard being used and tents being set up. He's been very flexible and wonderful.
Dear Graves, I'm not trying to burst anybody's bubble, but there's some bad weather coming in. And I'm sure there are a lot of people here
Yeah.
who walk here. And I think we ought this is best discussion for another night.
We have it on the agenda
Yeah,
for later, okay, let's address it,
definitely positive.
yes, yeah,
Right.
it's very positive.
Before you move away from this, I would like to get back to the Community Foundation to say that you've accepted the $5,000 for fire and rescue. And that that it should go to the town, not fire and rescue, correct? The check?
And that's separate from the Old Home Day grant.
Okay.
This is their, on top of the Old Home Day grant, they're offering an additional $5,000 to fire and rescue.
That's great, as far as I'm concerned. I mean,
Just say yes.
they were.
Say yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
They're great. Say yes and thank you, Alice.
Yeah, I assume you're not gonna need to make a motion on that because it's really, they're gonna give you money. And then the other thing is, I do need to get back to them about the Old Home Day thing because they've awarded it's $9,000 to the town for Old Home Day, and they too have their deadlines, and they'd probably like to know how we're sorting this out. So in the near future, it would be great if you would take it up. The proposal right now is 7,000 for Old Home Day and the remaining 2 to flood relief.
Okay,
So I can talk to you, Alice, we'll figure it out. That's Jamie.
Right, and then we'll get back to get the select board to make a determination, right?
yes, and I think it's on the next agenda for the select,
When is that meeting?
when is that meeting, next week?
I think it's the 22nd.
Okie dokie, thank you.
Okay. It's the 22nd.
Gotcha, thanks.
Bye.
All right, so now the next thing on the agenda is hearing a proposal regarding planning for future flooding in the village from Arian, I can't say the last name. Thabamari.
Thank you. My name's Arian Toomery. I did circulate a proposal to Jim after speaking with him a little bit and Graham Tobin and some others. I owned the Heartbreak. Many of the tenants are here tonight, who have lost a tremendous amount, and there's a lot of people who've lost other things in the village. Initial assessment is very unlikely Heartbreak would be rebuildable or should be rebuildable because of how it's located in the floodplain. I think we don't want anybody to try to go through the same heartbreak, no, maybe pun intended, on in this kind of situation. I spoke with several of the residents, building owners who are also on Hudson Street and all within the 100-year floodplain. Many of them plan to leave and not rebuild regardless of various outcomes. The town is facing a tremendous loss, both of residents, of community, and also of tax base, which is, primarily the duty of the select board. We have an opportunity to turn this into something that can be positive for the community, or we can suffer the losses of it unique as alone, and if we're not organized about this. So I think there could be a tremendous potential for the select board to examine a joint proposal where it's in order to get a FEMA buyout of a structure, the town has to approve it and release it from the grant list. That is required. Nobody can apply for this individually. And if we do it in a coordinated way, offering it to people within the floodplain, I have only looked at the town, at the village itself. There are other people within the floodplain, there are other structures in the lot. I cannot speak to that at this time. My proposal specifically was about looking in the village, doing a FEMA buyout of structures that would be appropriate. It's optional, it's forced to do this. It would just be the town to be supportive of people doing this in a coordinated fashion. Returning that to a floodplain, I think there have been some excellent comments regarding, should we put all the bridges back? Great question. So that we could have a parkway that would go probably along the river, go to the rec field. Maybe we have a nice bike path, other walkways, but return that land to being a floodplain so that we acknowledge when we say we're going to adapt to climate change, that means we're really going to do some things. And this would be really doing some things in an affordable, in a feasible way, in a coordinated way. The second part of that plan is this would be a loss of community. This would be a loss of people who are able to live in Plainfield. This would be a loss of tax base. How can we do something else? Bram and his wife Erica own the land that's up here on the bluff immediately above the village. That land is essentially off the corner of Maple Hill and East Hill. You can see it right there. That land is 20, 30 feet higher out of the floodplain. Boy, if that land floods, we got other problems we're gonna have to worry about. So I have no financial relationship with Bram. I think this is a great idea. In forward that the town could, in some way or another, we could form that as part of the village. We would add roads. If there is water and sewer mains already running to the area, the houses on East Hill are already hooked up to town water and sewer. And that we could, through the process and coordination through the town, provide buildable lots. I'm sure we could do at least 20. There would be possibility for more. There would be probably a planning process where we would engage an outside design firm. We would engage community stakeholders, everybody to come and comment. And I think everybody I've spoken with says, how do we keep this still the same way as the village charm? I think a lot of people like the plain, these would be new buildings, but kind of feels a little bit funky. I think some of us like that. And we are in a tremendous position as a town where people want to live in Plainfield. Young people want to live in Plainfield. People want to build in Plainfield. We have 3 houses currently being built in Plainfield. And the only place you could even build 3 houses in E-Rock made up places for houses. So we should be excited and enthusiastic about this proposal. We have the land. Bram and Erica are open to the conversation. I think it's really on the town and the select board to try to move some of this forward. And in my proposal specifically, Jim, I have offered to be a coordinator of looking at this and carrying the project forward. And I think so this is a very rough introductory conversation. This would be a longer process, but I think we have some great resources and awesome people in this town and a lot of excitement and energy about people who want to live here, that we could take this project and in a coordinated, planned way with a lot of community involvement, maintain the integrity and expand the feel of the village, You have foot walkways, special walkways coming down the bluff here, I think you wanna have a road there, but you can have some other things that would really make it still feel part of the village, and we could in fact come out of this on the other side feeling stronger and more resilient, rather than just script plans.
I provided quite a bit of information because some of what you said is already underway and we may not have spoken enough to know that. The town has already committed to be part of the buyout program. The town has approved already as a basis from the last year's budget, approved 3 houses and we have possibly 2 more to be removed from the floodplain. The actual number of people who've approached me in the floodplain area as of this most recent event has increased. People who I originally offered to buy out that I thought would be eligible now have resisted initially are actually encouraged by that. We may get close to the kind of, it will be hard. I'm the buyout coordinator, so it would be hard to estimate how many houses and whether we'll be clear, but part of the buyout is that you commit initially, both as a homeowner and as a town, that nothing will ever be built there again. And that's part of why it's favorable to the river, but also favorable to the long-term survivability of the village. So it's 100% already set up to help you do that. And the second point is that it's ironic and it's personal, but many times I'm looking at the old building of this village back to the 1710s, 1750s, whatever. I kept asking myself, with all that great land up where you're talking about, why was the village built in the most vulnerable part of the valley? But it's always about milling. It's always about having a mill, and the mill draws the culture to it, and then the church is there, and then, so this is a chance, as you say, to evaluate. I'm 100%.
We should talk a little more. I think the only ask of the select board, I don't even know, is like, if there's will for this. I would be very willing to draw a more detailed proposal about what that process could look like. And bring it to, if not the next select board meeting, soon select board meeting to continue the conversation. If that seems appropriate.
I'm very interested in it, and I think when you come to the select board, if you can bring information, it gives us things to think about and to ultimately approve, talk about and float up. So I think it's great. And we have a couple of questions.
And I just like to say, I agree with Carl.
What's
I
that?
agree with what Carl just said.
We have 1 question, we have 2 questions.
Okay.
I'm Jenny Vilazurkowski. I spoke with Stephanie Smith from BEM today, Vermont Emergency Mitigation.
Yeah.
She is asking to be officially invited to a select board meeting. She can answer all the questions about the Vermont buyout program and FEMA buyout program.
Okay.
We were denied even access to buyout last year and to appeal as well. And she said that was incorrect.
Oh.
There is a way to appeal, there is a way to apply, even for those who were not in the FEMA flood zone map. And the state can help work around that. And even if that doesn't work, she said, then there's going to be state funding that can help with that. And she would love to explain everything in person and just needs an official invitation to have her phone number.
Give me her name again. We'll see if she got
Stephanie Smith.
Stephanie Smith.
Betsy Smith.
Stephanie.
Sorry. This is the problem with getting old and.
And speaking to Jenny's point, she's probably quite right, but the program has had a state director, and the state director may have been giving me that information. But I passed on to the select board, because you heard me say it.
Yeah.
What the eligibility requirements were, and I did say to Jenny that this coming year is going to reinvigorate that program, and the qualifications and the application process is going to change a little bit, and I'm just waiting to hear what that will be.
Okay, we'll get our agenda. We had this gentleman here. Your name again?
My name is Jake McBride. I just wanted to, Gary, thank you so much for this proposal. I think
Yeah, this is great.
a wonderful idea, and I'd be happy to work with you on it, to move it forward. And I would love to see this like fast tracked in any way that we can. I think we're in a really unique position as a town. We're a small town in rural America that young people want to move to, and that's such a privilege. And also just it's a gift. It's a gift in a lot of ways. And there's really special community here, and so I want us to really be thoughtful about the way that we go about this. Not only to preserve the character of the village, the history of the village, honor that, but to keep it affordable. Because, you know, people will move to Plainfield no matter what, they will, like, we know that now. And that's only gonna increase in coming years, and so making sure that that doesn't just get bought up real quick by people coming in from out of town. But actually is affordable to the people who lost their housing in the past, you know, when was the last one? Last year. The last 2 years, you know, and I think that, you know, if a project like this takes a couple of years, which I'm sure it will. It may very well. Then, you know, I don't want those people, myself included, to be forgotten about, and for those properties to be bought up, and for us to be, you know, forced out of the field and have the property values driven up by this new neighborhood. So I just want us to be really, really thoughtful and careful about the way we do that.
Okay, so, let's read Jim Gerstmann, so the buyout piece, Michael, if you're interested, we've already told you we're interested. People are interested in the buyout program. The first step is to contact you by mail, or how is that first step?
The first step is actually to fill out an interest form, which you've already done on the state website for the buyout program.
And then what happens?
What happens then is that I'm notified by the state of who has applied, and then each of those people can decide whether they actually want to apply. And then when they decide they want to apply, then it's taken, they get forms consenting to be in the program, the select board consents to support their wanting to be in the program, and then finally they apply, which is then a year-long process, but it does happen, and we have several houses going through. And I have to say, by the way, I wanted to add an appeal to what you said, which is connected to this, which is that, sorry, yeah, there are a bunch of old people here. And I'm talking about, in my case, I'm almost 80. And I know that there's all kinds of fresh and vigorous and smart thinking people moving to town. And I didn't want to be emergency management director. I was very clear about that. I said it before about 5 weeks before the last year's flood. And it wasn't because I anticipated we'd have something like this. It's been an enormously difficult strain for my age and whatever else I am. And so the part that I wanted to do was to use this also as an opportunity to look at all the people who have vision, who have interest, the men and women who are really deeply aware of the future of this town, and to go for positions of public responsibility as they become available, and influence what happens. That's my request. So.
This is Lisa Ryan, does the town need to make an official, like, do you have to do anything official to say that you are gonna be inviting Stephanie Smith to the next select board meeting?
I just made a note on the agenda for us to invite her to the next meeting.
Yeah.
I don't know if we can get her next Monday, but you know, another meeting, we will do it.
Cause I think she'll do a really good job being able to explain, so there's like, it's like jump through one hoop, then if that hoop doesn't lead to where you need to, you have to direct to another, and she can explain that process.
That's great. I think the select board is in support of this idea, and that if the work is gonna be done that we're not doing, it shouldn't be us, it should be you who have the most at stake. I think it'll be. Jamie, hi there.
Hi. Jamie Spector.
Thank you.
I just want to thank you, Erin, for your proposal. I'm super in support. Bram and I think we sat on my back patio, talking about this very idea, probably maybe 6 years ago or something like that. And so we've been churning on this idea, also sort of related to this, the number of empty houses that are in Plainfield Village, that is just a shame. There are a number of houses that are right in the village that are sitting empty. Some that need to be torn down. There's, you know, that could be rebuilds, some that just need to be renovated and could be occupied, but with the housing crisis we have, it's a shame. There shouldn't be any empty housing, because I agree, there's so many people who wanna live here, and we need to support that. I just wanna suggest an awesome, if you wanna project manage this, and I wanna make a pitch to get in touch with Down Street Housing and Community Development. And try to get in touch with their director of real estate development. You know, I was on their board for some years. I mean, it takes a while to get in their pipeline. But as the community land trust for our part of the state, their mission is to create safe and permanently affordable housing. And so they're all about partnering with communities. So if we show that our select board is in support and we have community members and we have a community vision for a permanently affordable, accessible housing, and we have a landowner who is willing to, you know, sell land to create a number of units of housing. We met with Down Street some years ago, when we were doing the Council on Rural Development, the ramp project here in the community for folks who were here. And part of that, we were looking at community revitalization and housing in the community. And at that point, Down Street was telling us they needed really a minimum of about 30 units to make a project work at scale. Which it was hard for us to get, but I think that that's where, personally, I feel like that's something we should push them on, because I think in small rural communities, we need to say, like, we may not get that, you know, or it may be it's a scattered site. If you're saying we could get 20 there, then maybe there's a few other scattered buildings around town and we can get to 25. And maybe we make it work that way, you know, because there are scattered site developments, and, you know, Lisa knows about this too, so. Like, you know, so I would just say, cause then if they can be a development partner, they can help get the money, they can help manage the construction. And they'll partner with us around design. You know, I've seen them partner with communities in Waterbury and, you know, all over the region. And, you know, they'll work to fit it in with the look and the feel of the town, and we can keep the strange and plain, keep the plain and strange feelings. So, you know, but I think it's a great idea, and I think, like you said, we have a great opportunity and capitalize if we have a moment. We have media attention right now, we have the attention of the state, we have the attention of our federal representatives, like, we gotta capitalize on that and now, and governor, like, boom, we gotta move on it now.
Jim, have a question, Carl?
Yeah, go ahead.
Motion in support of this, or should we wait till the next meeting?
To me, it's still a little, I'd like to, I generally am in agreement with it. What is it you want to make a motion?
Because they're gonna start putting work into this, maybe we should wait for some kind of proposal that the town.
Yeah, I mean, I circulated to you folks, that is the other board members in Bram, the email I got from Arian. And so that you have that. I did that a few days ago, I think. Why don't we put this on a future agenda and and have a discussion about exactly what it is we want to say about it.
Yeah.
Hey, Paula, put her hand up.
Oh, yeah, I was just gonna say, well, it's an excellent time to join the Plainfield Planning Commission. And come to regional planning commission meetings, which are the first Tuesday of every month at 6:30 in Montpelier or Berkeley. You'll learn a lot, and or don't even join the planning commission, just go to meetings, like you wanna learn about this.
Jesse.
Yeah, and Will Colvin, talk to Will Colvin.
Yep.
Yeah, and I guess that's another consideration, I think, that we might want to get the opinion of the planning commission about this proposal.
Yeah.
Before we make a decision.
Okay, well,
have the planning commission discuss this proposal as well.
Okay.
If I may.
Monday.
Okay, this is Arian again. I think that just getting the select board, I think the intention tonight was to say, hey, if this is interesting, we can develop a proposal further. We'd be happy to work with others who are interested in working on that. And then we can bring it forward to the select board when there's the next agenda opening.
Yeah. Probably in a couple of weeks. I mean, what I would like to hear is the progress we go. I mean, I think the board's behind it, the idea. So we just want to start thinking about details and what the impact is on surrounding houses and properties and so on. All this will have to be dealt with.
Yeah,
but-
I think it's a good idea to explore and to look into. Definitely in favor of doing that.
Okay,
Should we set a date to get something to you guys? Would that be helpful? What seems realistic? I mean, obviously, there may be somewhat of an iterative approach, but just putting something out there as a flag post to march towards.
if you wanted to have something for us to read prior to a meeting, I wouldn't say next Monday, but maybe a couple of weeks.
When's the next one after next Monday?
When are our meetings, Jim?
Second and fourth Monday evening of each month, second and fourth.
So we certainly entertain anything that's, any thoughts or any questions?
Is that Monday, August 5th? Am I looking at that correctly?
I'm looking.
Oh, that's the second, excuse me, that'd be the 12th.
Well, okay.
Okay, so does that sound good that we pay something a few days ahead of that as just a deadline?
And Kristen in the office does the agenda for us, so
Okay.
if well, we can advise her that we're supportive of hearing from you. And she'll make sure it's on the agenda.
That sounds great.
And Jim, I have a request, looking ahead to that meeting, just for everybody to be thinking about. The town will need to choose I try to do this correctly. Individual assistance coordinator, a public assistance coordinator. These are people who have responsibility to act as the agent for the town for those two programs, public assistance and individual assistance, which we basically think of family assistance as individuals, family assistance, and municipal assistance. And needs to have a coordinator to take those roles, as well as somebody to coordinate the ultimate waste management. So waste management coordinator. This is all post-flood kind of stuff, but we'll have to have some appointments.
Can you send an email to us about that, Michael? Just a short email telling us what we need to do?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And copy Kristen and the 3 board and Bram and the 3 board members.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are we up to the adjournment part of the agenda or not yet?
I would move to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, it's unanimous. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate all the participation and all the great ideas. I think this was really useful. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, within 7 days, yeah.
Thank you, folks, for showing up.
They added
I think that's Friday and they just got more, do a lot of work.
And the group of Marshall got it in. So, yeah.
Essentially more.
You sit on the bars back.
We need someone to shut this off.
Thanks, can you-
Yeah.
Yeah.